Mexico City's world-famous Art Week ended on a high note over this past weekend, with attendance up from last year and a grand prize of $100,000 awarded to the winner of one of the world's most prestigious art fairs. CGTN's Frank Contreras was there rubbing elbows with some of the biggest names in Latin America's art scene.
We've come to the giant Zona Maco art space in Mexico City. This year, it features pieces from 25 countries around the world and more than 200 leading galleries representing all major continents. The Hilario Galguera Gallery brought works from Mexico's best-known living artists, including this oil on canvas called The Legend of Volcanoes by artist Daniel Lezama, himself a living legend. The piece is valued at $40,000.
Because of its fresh contemporary art scene, Mexico City has become a major center for gallery owners, collectors, and art fans alike.
Cuban-born Direlia Lasso is the artistic director responsible for bringing together untold millions of dollars worth of fine art into this one space. She says Art Week launches careers for upcoming Latin American artists.
Here we receive curators from international art fairs. They come from top art institutions and they can see firsthand what is happening with Latin American art. From this will come other art expositions that will be shown in other countries in the coming years.
Outside of Zona Maco, another 30 art spaces, including scores of galleries, also participated in Art Week. This one is located in Mexico City's working-class neighborhood of Colonia Doctores. Irena Calderon is the cultural director of the Laguna MX Art Factory, a large space for creative people which, 100 years ago, used to be a textile factory.
Here at Laguna MX, we believe in excellent quality art, free and accessible to the public, for the people of Colonia Doctores, Mexico City, and the general public.
Back at Zona Maco, the Art Week epicenter, the winner of the grand prize chosen by the public has just been announced.
To be in the same position.
He's Danish photographer Jacob Gills, who captured attention with this multi-layered time-lapse photo taken on a rainy day on a street corner in Mallorca, Spain. The piece is from his Movement series.
It's not that much about which tree is it or which building, it's more the feeling. I'm often been called an impressionistic photographer because it's the mood I'm trying to get out.
Mexico City's Art Week ended Sunday afternoon just before the start of the Super Bowl. And once again, it proved to be the Super Bowl of Latin America's booming art scene. Frank Contreras, CGTN, Mexico City.
Oh, just great stuff there. And joining us now to discuss all this is Sean Kelly. Sean is the owner of the Sean Kelly Gallery in New York and Los Angeles. And welcome to our program. Thanks very much for taking some time to chat with us.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Sean, I want to get your impressions first about that story. I mean, it covered so much. There's the established artists. There are the people that are trying to break through. And I love that what that photographer said. He wants to be an impressionist photographer. How important is it for people to get to experience this kind of culture?
I think one of the things that's really extraordinary about Zona Maco, which it was in its 20th edition this year, is how much it's really changed and contributed to the culture, not just in Mexico City, but of Mexico itself.
Right.
We've been doing the fair for over a decade, wow. And it is the most prominent art fair in Latin America now. It brought together over 80,000 people, members of the public, who visited the fair this year, and it has become the most important platform in the Latin Americas for contemporary art. But what it does is it doesn't just deal with art. It also reflects the burgeoning culture, the food culture, the design culture, theater, performance arts that are happening in Mexico City right now, and in Mexico generally, which the economy is really blown up.
You talked about those tens of thousands of people going through and just basking in all of this.
Yep.
What does it mean to have that experience for people who can't come to New York or can't go to Los Angeles to enjoy one of those galleries? How important is this?
Well, I think for anybody that's interested in the visual arts and in culture, it's hugely important. And you know, the fair has changed the entire culture in Mexico and Latin America in the last 2 decades, because you have galleries, international galleries, coming from all over the world to participate in the fair. So instead of you having to go to them, they're coming to you, and when they come to you, they're experiencing your culture. And you know, our experience is that our clients who come from all over the world are coming back every year because they love being there. They love the restaurants. They love the experience of being in Mexico City, and that makes a huge contribution to the economy of the city and the country.
You know, I would make the argument that Mexico City is a work of art in itself, and for artists out there to get to come down and experience this. From your perspective as an art gallery owner, what is the benefit of having the art show in Mexico City, in addition to other cities that host something similar, but perhaps not on this scale?
Well, for us, what it allows us to do is to kind of insert ourselves into that culture for a short period of time. And of course, we're looking for artists. We're looking for artists from within the culture that we can work with in our program. And we represent Mexican artists like Jose Davila is a very famous artist. We're looking for other artists from the point of view of the cultural providers from Mexico City. Of course, it gives them access to us.
Right.
So it's a win-win situation.
Okay, Paris, London, of course, Manhattan. We think of artistic success. When you see Mexico City, what comes to mind in terms of artistic brilliance?
What comes to mind at the moment is that Mexico City is on such a roll. It's still a fairly inexpensive city to live in the way that Berlin was in the early 90s. There is an enormous influx of artists who've moved to Mexico City to live and work, so the culture is very vibrant. The food culture particularly has exploded with a lot of indigenous talent and regional cuisines from Oaxaca and all over the country coming to prominence. And it's just a very, very vital, vibrant, dynamic place to be. And as I said, we love to visit, and our clients love to be there. So they come back every year.
Wow, that's amazing. Where do you think the art scene is right now, and where is it going? What does Mexico City and other areas need to really allow more artists to flourish? Maybe the ones who just haven't had that break yet.
I think it needs investment, it needs access, it needs to not have restrictions placed on shipping and tariffs and taxes and the general economic backup. It needs to make access easier. And wherever you see those things occurring, you will have a vibrant cultural economy. You know, and it's notable all over the world what that can mean for different regional centers. I mean, the Guggenheim Bilbao completely transformed, you know, a sort of fairly working class northern Spanish city just by building a museum. So the cultural impact is enormous, and Mexico already has 20 or 30 great museums. So there is enormous benefit for everybody.
You know, and just seeing all these wonderful works of art, the tens of thousands of people that went there. Let's hear your advice for someone very established in this field, to new talent that want to be part of the type of work that you do and desire to go from a struggling artist to a full-time artist. How can one make that leap?
You know, what's very important if you're an artist visiting an art fair is to remember that the gallerists who are on the ground there trying to deal with an influx of 81,000 people, at that moment, they're very, very busy. So don't go on the booth and try and talk to them about your work at that moment. But do by all means go on, tell them who you are, ask if you can leave material, and contact them after the fair. Most galleries are looking for artists. They're looking for good artists. We found a fantastic artist at last year's Zona Marco that is now in our program.
Oh yeah, that's great.
We have a show of hers, Ana Gonzalez. We have a show of hers up in LA at the moment. It's been a huge success, but just be respectful of the process that the dealers and the galleries are dealing with at that moment. They're super busy. Be respectful, go on the booth, chat, leave your material, or send it to them afterwards. Most people will be happy to interact with you.
Anna Gonzalez. We're going to make an effort to get her on our program down the line. Sean Kelly, I can't thank you enough.
She is a fantastic young artist from Bogota, Colombia, that we discovered last year at Zona Marco. So there you have it.
Okay. Sean, great stuff there. I really appreciate it. Wonderful segment. Thank you a lot.
Pleasure. Nice to speak to you. Thank you for having me.